Hello, and welcome to the Week 9 Awards Market Show. Today, we're going to cover some of our favorite bets for NFL MVP, Offensive Rookie of the Year, and more. I'm joined by Ryan Reynolds, whose Week 9 Awards Market article is available to subscribers at establishthерun.com right now. All right, Ryan, let's start with MVP. This is actually a market that I don't normally bet a lot of, but this year I seem to be betting a lot because I keep finding stuff that I like, and it's more wide open, I think, than usual. Last year I had that Hertz ticket that I just kind of rode all year and tried to pick off some other spots where I could hedge a bit with other long shot types. This year I've taken some long shots like Brock Purdy, which looks dead now. I've taken some longer stuff on Josh Allen, which doesn't look great right now. And I added a long shot this week, which I'm curious to get your opinion on. But overall, Ryan, how do you think about this MVP market as we sit here heading into week 9?
Yeah, usually at the roughly mid-season point, there's 4 or 5 guys that have a real path, so there's more this year than normal. I think with Tua, team success is a potential issue. The production's obviously been there. Mahomes, betting against Patrick Mahomes, there's not a lot of margin to be made there in general, but I think we'd both agree that the offense is not quite what it has been in recent years. Jalen Hurts is still in the hunt. Eagles have a much tougher schedule in the second half of the year, but he's in a good position, especially from a team success standpoint, to be the NFC's number 1 seed. Lamar Jackson, what I'll say about him is, the guy's awesome. He's won an MVP before, but if you looked at his passing statistics and those were Josh Allen's, the narrative would be, what's wrong with Josh Allen? So the Ravens team success, fine. I don't think Lamar's laid down enough production yet. Josh Allen statistically has a pretty interesting case here. Bills have 3 losses already, which is a negative, but touchdowns, EPA, rating, QBR, he's all pretty much on pace. Him and Tua have the best cases so far, I'd say, just on that alone. Joe Burrow, I wanted to bet on Joe Burrow before the season, but I didn't like his odds. Joe Burrow's in a good position now, surging, looked like himself against the 49ers last week. Think the Jaguars have a case to be the AFC's top seed based on schedule, which makes Trevor Lawrence interesting too. And like you said, I think Purdy's pretty much dead because he missed a game, but still the 49ers are at least in play to be the NFC's top seed.
I mean, well, Purdy didn't miss a game. He just has been bad. They've lost 3 straight
True.
games. I mean,
True.
it's been really ugly for Purdy right now. I do have 22-1 from before, but I'm not reloading anything on 22-1. The one that I took this week was I took Burrow 22-1. And like the way they're playing right now, and I know Evan talked about this on Tuesday too, but the way they're playing right now is so pass heavy, and they don't have a great run game, and they don't have a great defense right now. Burrow is going to get a lot of credit if this team can go on a run and rip off a bunch of wins in a row. They're still a pretty big dog just to win their division. I mean, the Ravens are an overwhelming favorite right now to win the AFC North, but that could change really fast, I think. Of course, Burrow needs to win this game against Allen on Sunday night, I think, to have a chance. I also took last week, I took some Josh Allen 15-1. And I already had some Hurts there at 12-1 and 15-1 also. So right now I don't have Tua, I don't have Lamar, I don't have Mahomes, which doesn't feel great, but I feel okay about some of these long shots. What do you think about the Allen and Burrow stuff here, Ryan? Because they play each other, which I think is going to have a huge impact, at least on the market. I don't know on the final outcome of this, but at least on the market, it's going to have a huge outcome.
I love that cluster you have, and I think this week, whoever wins this game, I think if Allen wins, he'll be 8-1 next week. If Burrow wins, he'll be 10-1. And one thing I'll add with Burrow is in each of the last 2 years, he's gone nuts late in the year and surged into like the top 3 contenders here. So I bet on Burrow too at 22-1. Love that. I am still debating if I'm gonna wait until the bye week's over to see if I'm gonna bet on Lawrence next week.
Yeah, Burrow, notorious slow starter, man, and like notorious slow starter. And yeah, I think he's going to finish really strong. The only thing I'd say about Mahomes is the narrative out there amongst the voters is that this team isn't that good, which I disagree with. I think they have an awesome defense and an awesome offensive line, but some of these dolty voters probably just say, "Oh, Mahomes has no wide receivers, and look how good he's still playing." Right? And I know he was really bad against the Broncos this week, but yeah, I am not ruling Mahomes out of this race whatsoever. I think there's a big narrative that he can build, that he's done this without any competent wide receivers for the entire year. Keep it moving here to offensive player of the year. Silva talked about I think he got something insane, like 40-1 or 60-1 or something on AJ Brown. As you see on the screen now, if you're watching on YouTube, AJ Brown is now down to 8-1. That said, it's a great bet by Evan. There's no doubt. That said, I think you're going to need an injury to Tyreek or CMC for one of them not to win this award. Maybe I'm crazy. Ryan, what do you think about long shots here? Because right now on DraftKings, it's Tyreek Hill plus 125, Offensive Player of the Year, Christian McCaffrey plus 125, and then AJ Brown 8-1, and then everybody else way back.
Yeah, I think Chase is the other guy I'd add here because right now he's actually leading the league in receptions per game, and like we said with Burrow, that offense is surging. So I think I'd put him in this conversation too. But I completely agree. I actually think Tyreek Hill is going to have 2,000 yards receiving if he doesn't get hurt, and Christian McCaffrey just can't stop scoring touchdowns. It's a bit like the Cooper Kupp and Jonathan Taylor season in that regard, where even if it is a great bet by Evan, and I think he'd be probably the favorite in most years right now, but those two guys up top, man, are just doing a lot to overcome. So you're right. Probably looking at an injury for anyone else to win.
Yeah, like I would not take AJ Brown 8-1, would you?
No.
Okay. And like Chase 22-1. It's just hard for me to see Chase getting there unless both Tyreek and CMC get hurt. But stranger things have certainly happened. So I don't have any bets in this market for this week. I wish I had gotten on the 60-1 that Evan got. When you get things like the 60-1, it just makes it easier because you can more comfortably wait for maybe a down game from Tyreek or a down game from CMC and take something like 2-1. And, even if you think it's not great or not thin, you have it backed up with the 60-1. You just get all plus money, all long shots into your portfolio.
Agreed.
Let's keep it going to defensive player of the year. Favorites are three-way. Micah Parsons plus 190 on DraftKings, Myles Garrett plus 200, TJ Watt up to plus 225 here. Seemed like Micah Parsons was like running away with this. However, Myles Garrett and TJ Watt have had some big games. Myles Garrett's had some really like game-changing plays lately that have stuck out. What do you think about defensive player of the year, Ryan?
Yeah, I think team success factors in here. So I think that's a problem for both Garrett and Watt. Neither team could make the playoffs potentially, but I think if the season ended right now, it would be between them two. Long term, I bet on Parsons before the season. I think he's in an excellent position from a team success standpoint. He only has 6 sacks right now, but that could change in a heartbeat. I wrote in the article, I wrote up Josh Allen from the Jaguars at 100-1. He's now 70-1 on DraftKings. I don't know where he's at on other sports books, but he's currently second in the league in sacks. The Jaguars have a pretty manageable schedule in the second half. And if they end up as the top, even if they just get a bye, not a bye, but even if they just end up winning the division, he's super live. He has no business being at 100-1 odds.
Yeah. When I read that in Ryan's article, I did take the 100-1 on Josh Allen. I also took some 75-1 on Josh Allen. Obviously not for a lot. When you have odds like that, it's hard to get down a lot. But also, I just, I don't like to overextend myself on 100-1 shots. So anyways, I do think the Josh Allen one is still good at 70-1, 75-1. And I think those numbers are out there. The one that I took a few weeks ago, which I was curious what you thought of, Ryan, a few weeks ago, I took Hutchinson 25-1 and Nick Bosa 25-1. Looks like I got a little CLV or a little current CLV on Hutchinson. He's 16-1 now, but lost some on Nick Bosa. Do you think either of those guys are still live?
Hutchinson's actually, I almost put Hutchinson in the column again because he's 30-1 still at one of the sports books. And I think I think Hutchinson should be fourth in this race. The Lions are a contending team. Hutchinson's the face of the defense. So I love that. He's a little bit behind in sacks, but again, he's the type of guy where he gets 3 in a game. All of a sudden he's 8-1. With Bosa, again, he won last year, so he's fine. I just think with San Francisco, you have Warner, you have him. Mm-hmm. I think there might be some voter fatigue with Bosa too. But again, at 25-1 type odds, I don't have a problem with that at all.
Yeah, and they just added Chase Young too. I mean, they're going to have a big rotation there along the defensive line. In terms of defensive player of the year, these top 3, I don't think I would bet these short of odds. You're not getting great prices on Parsons, Garrett, or TJ Watt. But do you have a favorite out of those 3?
I just from team success, I think Parsons is the favorite in this race for a reason. So I'd still back him if I had to.
Agreed. Offensive rookie of the year. I think I'm going to take a bath on this one, man. I had Achane before the season at like 50-1. I had Kendra Miller at like 100-1, but my biggest bets were on Bijan Robinson at 5-1. Now we find ourselves, Bijan is the 4th choice now, 13-1. We have CJ Stroud is minus 175. Even though he didn't play a good game at all last week, he's still minus 175. Puka Nacua 3-1. Jahmyr Gibbs 12-1. Bijan Robinson 13-1. Jordan Addison 16-1. Obviously, Addison was really coming on until the Kirk Cousins injury. But yeah, Stroud's still minus 175, Ryan. My God, a lot of quarterback bias there. What do you think about offensive rookie of the year?
Yeah, what I find interesting there is he's had less than 200 passing yards in each of the last 2 weeks. I don't think there's a guarantee that he has a great second half. So I think this race is generally open. Puka Nacua, Stafford has an injury in his throwing hand right now, so who knows what goes from there. But let me frame this to you this way, Adam. If Arthur Smith wasn't the coach of the Falcons, we could call this guy a madman at this point, if we're being honest. Let's take 3 skill position players in the top 10 and not really use any of them. Great stuff. If we had a normal football coach, man, I would be all over Bijan Robinson at 13-1.
Yeah.
But let me also throw this at you, Adam, since you said you bet on A-Chain too. He has 460 yards rushing and Bijan has 466. So if he comes back soon and Stroud continues to struggle, I actually think he has a path where I didn't 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. And also, Mostert's been banged up here. And yeah, I mean, all the reports on Achane getting back, I've been positive so far. We're showing, if you guys are watching on YouTube, these are DraftKings prices that you're seeing on your screen. But I would really encourage people to shop. There could be longer Achane stuff out there for sure. I think that's an interesting one. He was just taking the NFL by storm. You also get Will Levis in here at 35-1. And if Will Levis can sustain the play that he had, obviously, in his first NFL start, 35-1 looks like a steal. Obviously, I do not think he can sustain the level of play that he had in his first career start, but he has an island game tonight against the Steelers. If he plays well again, this is going to look way lower than 35-1. He's a quarterback, and you don't have to I believe Kenneth Walker won this last year, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, he didn't, but he
was a runner-up.
He got back into the race and he didn't even start playing until this time. I mean, he was basically benched last year. And so guys can come from way back in this race. So I wouldn't rule out Will Levis 35-40-1. I like the Achane call. And yeah, the Bijan stuff, man. I can't face putting any more money on Arthur Smith. I have so much Falcon stuff, but I don't think it's crazy. The 13-15-1 on Bijan. Let's keep it moving to defensive rookie of the year. I'm not sure how much there's to say on defensive rookie of the year. I am hoping it's Witherspoon. I got him after he made that Monday Night Football. Really had an incredible game on that. I think it was a Monday Night Football game around plus 300. He's now plus 140. Jalen Carter's minus 125. So the gap there has gotten tighter since 3 or 4 weeks ago. Any thoughts on Carter versus Witherspoon and any long shots in this market?
Yes, Witherspoon essentially single-handedly beat the Giants at him on Monday Night Football. It was he hasn't had any splash plays since then, but he built a great foundation. And one of the things that I think of with both defensive markets is the voters aren't watching defensive players as much as they are offensive players. Making a big impression in an isolated night game is I think it's more important in those races than anything else. Carter's the best player. Carter's already missed a game, so if he goes down, the Witherspoon walks right into the lead. Ultimately, though, you're going to need more splash plays out of Witherspoon. Will Anderson at plus 1,300. He only has 1 sack, but Carter only has 3.5. I think if you were gonna bet this market, I think he's the guy I'd take a shot on, but I'm staying completely away from it at this point.
All right, yeah, I don't really have any long shots here. I think it's either going to be Carter or Witherspoon. Don't really like the price on either one right now. Coach of the year. God, every time we talk about this, Ryan, I just get so frustrated to see Dan Campbell as the favorite. I mean, Dan Campbell's done a great job. Mike McDaniel has done a great job. The third choice right now, those guys are 2-1 and plus 275. The third choice right now is Bobby Saleh, who is 6-1. Those are all really interesting choices. I'm not sure the Jets can sustain what they're doing. If Aaron Rodgers somehow miraculously comes back, that would be a different story. But the Jets do have the hardest part of their schedule out. What do you think about Coach of the Year right now?
Yeah, I'm with you with the Jets. I don't exactly want to bet on Zach Wilson. Let me step back and frame this way. Guys in Mike McDaniel's position don't normally win this award. Dolphins made the playoffs last year. If they have the best offense in the history of the sport, that's different. I think that's their path there, but that's not someone that I'm going to bet on. Dan Campbell, again, the amount of money that we had on the Lions last year was considerable. I do think, especially with Vrabel winning 2 years ago, where he overcame injuries, and I think you'd agree with me here, Adam. In general, I think the Coach of the Year market's broken. Ron Rivera's won 2 awards. Mike Tomlin's never won. Sean McDermott's never won. Kyle Shanahan's never won, so maybe they're changing their approach here, and I think that's the path for Campbell because the Lions were 9-7 last year. So I think that's how he gets there. D'Amico Ryans, if the Texans end up making the playoffs, I think he's probably the guy. But in that token, Stroud probably wins Rookie of the Year in that point, and they usually don't give the award to guys on two different teams. How I see this, and this is still like kind of shocking to me, I still think whoever wins the NFC South is in a great position. Arthur Smith, who again I don't want to put any more money on Arthur Smith, but 35-1's crazy. Todd Bowles is 50-1 on DraftKings. He's 85-1 on FanDuel. I don't have a lot of confidence in Tampa Bay, but he should be lower. And Dennis Allen is not a very good football coach. I don't. That's not my stance here, but I think the Saints are going to win the NFC South. I think they're going to win 10 or 11 games, and he's 100-1 on DraftKings. He's 1,300-1 on FanDuel. And one more guy I'm going to mention, Adam, just because I bet on this. Like you said, you don't put big money on super long shots, but I got Ron Rivera at 400-1. I put a little money on it. And the reason is the Vikings were going to be the wild card in the NFC, or the 7th seed in the NFC. With Kirk Cousins gone, I think that's wide open. Well, Washington has a brutal second half schedule. I think Rivera should be closer to 75-1. But I think Dennis Allen is, I bet on him again, personally.
Yeah. So the Saints have the easiest schedule the rest of the way. Falcons have the second easiest schedule rest of the way. I don't think the Bucs are going to be able to win the division. I think one of Saints or Falcons will win the NFC South. Obviously, that goes a long way. I don't know if it's enough, though, to catch Dan Campbell. And the reason that I say that is not because the Lions have bad talent, because they were bad last year. Like Ryan said, they went 9-7. There is something stuck in these voters' brain, like the Lions, the poor Lions. They're like, the laughing stock of the league for so long. Returning them to division champs, I just think goes so far in the mind of these voters who have seen these voters have been covering the NFL for 30 years. They've seen the Lions be bad for like literally 30 of them, So for Dan Campbell to partially last year will factor in, and then this year too. So assuming that the Lions win the division and given Kirk Cousins' injury and the way Jordan Love is playing right now, it's really hard to see the Lions not winning the division. I do think Campbell is going to win this award. So I'd be looking to attack it with uber long shots, like Ryan said, in case something weird happens, like Jared Goff gets hurt and they end up not winning the division or something like that. That's how I think about Coach of the Year for sure. Last one is my favorite market. I say that facetiously. Comeback Player of the Year. I have almost everyone in this market except for Damar Hamlin. And by the way, Damar Hamlin continues to be a healthy scratch on a near weekly basis. Even when he's not a healthy scratch, he exclusively plays special teams. Again, as I've said a million times about this market, some people out there think that Damar Hamlin just being on the team means he should win the Comeback Player of the Year award. I disagree, but I'm fine with that. If people want to have that take and the voters want to have that take, that's totally fine. It's not our job to say what we think. Our job is to figure out how they're going to vote. So Hamlin is now down to -140. Tua, who, by the way, Tua had some awful, scary injuries last year. He's down to 2-1. Brees is 8-1. Those three guys, to me, have the best case. I think Cooper Kupp has a reasonable case, too, but not nearly as dramatic of an injury as these other three guys. So what do you think about Comeback Player of the Year right now, Ryan, as we head to week 9?
I'm going to throw Brees Hall out because the running back hasn't won this award since Garrison Hurst, I think in 2002. If Christian McCaffrey didn't win last year, I think a lot's going to have to go wrong for Brees Hall to take this one down. I don't think the Rams are going to have enough success for Stafford to really be a factor. If Aaron Rodgers comes back somehow, maybe that's interesting, but I don't want to get involved with that. For me, it's Tua or Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's at a pretty good value still, actually. My concern there is, do voters think that his injury does he count in this race?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he does. I think that's reflected in the market. And the thing with Damar Hamlin is, I think this is the week. I think there's two things that we have to look at this week. Bengals Bills happens this Sunday night. That's gonna, his story is gonna be all over the place this week. So I think if we're gonna get a clue on how people are trending here this week, and then late in the year, Buffalo has a couple primetime games. If he does something in any of those two contests, I think, voters are going to side with him there too. But otherwise, I know if I were a voter, it would be Tua or Lamar for me.
Yeah, see, my problem with Lamar is when you look at the injuries these other guys had, I mean, Tua was such a scary thing with the concussions. Hamlin was obviously the scariest thing in the world. Brees Hall blew out his knee. I don't think people consider Lamar's injury anywhere near the scale of those. And this award is all about narratives. I don't think Lamar
Yeah.
has the narrative. So, yeah, if I had a vote right now, it would be Tua for sure. I mean, after what happened to him, like standing in the pocket and taking hits around his head, I wouldn't do it personally. Like, I would just be like, nah, man, like I'm good, you know? And so he's coming back from what I think is crazy. Obviously, the Hamlin thing is crazy too, but he's not playing at the same level or anywhere near it that Tua is. So, yeah. Any other long shot? I don't think there's any real long shots in this market really that I'd be interested. I love that they keep listing Calvin Ridley. No one is voting for Calvin Ridley. He's coming back from a gambling suspension. You think these voters are voting for Calvin Ridley? It makes no sense. He's 75-1. Don't torch your money on that. Anything else in this market, Ryan?
No, I think it boils to the quarterbacks, and like you said, I think Tua's in the driver's seat unless Damar Hamlin has some kind of surge in the second half.
All right. This was fun. Appreciate everyone being here. Thanks to Ryan for coming on. Ryan, tell the people where they can find you and where they can find your work.
You can find me at Ryan Reynolds NFL on Twitter. I do a bunch of stuff at the 33rddeacon.com. I write bi-weekly awards content here. And Adam, I'm pretty impressed that you haven't mentioned my look during the 20 minutes we've been filming this show, but I did do this for you since you requested it last year.
This is see, I think the Dable look, you need to have the hat off so you see the bald, and you need to have the
We can do that. I can do that for you.
Yeah. See, that looks more like Dable to me. But yeah, Ryan looks a lot like Dable, and he's a Giants laundry bro. So yeah, it all works. Hopefully you guys caught this on YouTube. You caught Ryan's shades looking sharp. All right. For Ryan, for producer Adam, for everyone behind the scenes at both ETR and the 33rd team, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.